Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on youtube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now, leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. It's time to answer your questions once again in the wrestling community. It is time for Ask SCW, and this is going to probably be a fairly extended version of the video. It's been 2 weeks since we've done one of these. Of course, I let last weekend go as it was WrestleMania weekend, and a lot of talking points this week, a lot of questions coming through as well. If you'd like to get involved, perhaps next week maybe for the next installment of this, just leave a question either on Twitter, Instagram or Facebook. You can even do it in the comments section of this video here on YouTube. Just leave the hashtag AskSCW and I know to include it in the next question section on this video series. But yeah, without further ado, we can get involved with the first question this week. I appreciate all the questions coming in this week. We've got multiple questions from some people as well. I do like to preferably keep them to one tweet, but I do appreciate the involvement anyway. It's great to have everyone here involved in the wrestling community. So without further ado, let's get into the first question this week, which I believe comes from a first-time asker, Bayley Lania. I hope I've said that correctly. Where do you think the Revival is going? Great way to start off the video. Of course, the Revival were granted their release from WWE this past Friday. Of course, rumour has it they've been trying to get their release for a while. They did ask for it, I believe, this time last year, or maybe even earlier this time last year. So it's not the first time they asked for it. They've been granted it. Where will they end up? Well, there's multiple different destinations and companies that I'm sure that would want them. They'd probably fit in quite well in a lot of places as well. NWA would be a great way for them with their perhaps their old school style of tag team wrestling. They fit in very well there, I feel. Impact Wrestling would be a great home for them as well, because of the fact, I mean, their tag team division probably could do with a tag team of the stature of the Revival at the minute. Plus, I would love to see the North versus the Revival. I just think that would be an amazing tag team match. The North, currently one of my favourite tag teams outside of WWE and AEW. If you're not familiar with the work, do go and check out Impact Wrestling. Just particularly even to go and see the North, very innovative with their tag team wrestling. New Japan would be really good, as well as Ring of Honor as well. I think they'd suit very well, particularly with the Japanese style over in New Japan. So there's multiple different homes for them, but of course the obvious answer, AEW, is where I expect them to go. They've been tweeting with the Young Bucks for the longest time about one day having this dream tag team match. The FTR has been going around, which I believe has been trademarked from the Revival as well. They'll probably have a different name going forward, as I imagine, probably going into AEW, but I expect they'll probably have some sort of tag team match with the Young Bucks in probably the not too distant future. I think it all comes down depending of when we can get these arenas going again, as well with tapings even at this point. Even if you can't have people in the arenas, maybe we can actually get people to at least create more tapings, and that way we'll be able to see that going forward. I believe AEW's current standpoint, they're up to about May the 15th, I believe, at the moment. So it probably won't be before then, but maybe we could expect them perhaps not too long after that. Maybe if they are able to do Double or Nothing, which I believe at this moment is very much in doubt, that would be a great way for them to start from my personal perspective. Next question comes from Austin Whitley. How would you book the Revival's debut in AEW? Confidence there from Austin Whitley that AEW is the home, the new home for the Revival going forward, and like I say, I do agree with you as well. The question is here, it all comes down to that end part of the last question with the TV tapings and how things are going to be going forward, because right now it's very difficult to debut in another company. You're not going to get that same pop that you would have got, say it had been a Wednesday night Dynamite, a usual Wednesday night in front of that big crowd of maybe say 5,000 people. You're not going to get that now, so it can leave some of these debuts to feel kind of flat. You've only got to look at Brody Lee and Matt Hardy. They had their debuts. Yes, I mean, I thought they were quite good looking at the back over them, but at the same time, they would have been so much better with a crowd. So I do feel this is going to be kind of difficult. You could have where the Revival want to send a message to the Young Bucks. I think that what could be kind of interesting going forward would be to break some kayfabe, knowing that the Revival are out of, not with WWE anymore, and if they have a name going forward, maybe using real names here could be quite interesting. I'd like the Young Bucks to call them out on the being the elite, have those clips showing on AEW Dynamite each and every week, kind of almost like a similar way to back in the old ECW days with Taz and Sabu. Taz would come out every single night and call out for Sabu until Sabu returned, and they had epic one-on-one matches. This way you can make this drag out as well, perhaps even to the point where the debuts are coming in, if you know that the Revival are coming into AEW. And it just would be an interesting twist, and then you could have that moment that the Revival come in when the Young Bucks perhaps least expect it, or least want it. Could be a point where they're weak after, who knows, maybe like a blood and guts kind of match, or maybe it could be a different kind of environment, maybe where they're isolated, maybe where, I mean, Nick Jackson was out of action before we had this pandemic going on. Now Nick and Matt are kind of doing their own thing and not really involved on TV right now on the Dynamites each and every week. So that kind of leads that element there. But if that must happen again, that would be a great way to bring them in as well. Have that 2-on-1 advantage, because we know the Young Bucks, they would be the faces in this way, and the Revival would be the heels. But either way, I see this tag team match happening. Definitely at some point this year. We just have to hope it's going to be in front of an audience, and how they're going to do it is going to be very interesting to see how it will play out. Next question comes from Mike, Italian Habs Mike, and probably a burning question for us right now. With reports of Roman Reigns saying he will not return unless the COVID-19 is over, which is the right thing to do, do you see more wrestlers doing the same thing as Reigns? Well, of course, big news coming out yesterday was actually that apparently someone within WWE has got a positive test of this COVID-19. So is that a member of the roster? Is that someone that's in production? That has not been diagnosed, that hasn't been made clear. Will that make a big difference to talent and roster going forward? It very well might. You can see people that have got families saying that it's not worth the risk, and you know, some of these superstars have been self-quarantining during this time anyway. It's going to be very interesting to see how it's going to be going forward. Will WWE continue with live TV? That's also going to be an interesting thing. They were rumoured to be doing tapings. Now a statement's come out saying they're going to be doing live recordings, and that you know, as seen obviously must be as essential entertainment or media form. They must have that way to get through to do that. They're apparently going to do the right procedures to make these TV tapings or these live tapings fit the guidelines, you know, but I don't know how it's all going to play out. What I would say is that there's a number of superstars we haven't seen on TV anyway. I mean, you've only got to look at Shorty G, Chad Gable. I've not seen Bobby Roode for a long time. There is a number of superstars that have not been on WWE TV, and we perhaps can't expect to see them until perhaps this is finished, maybe, at this particular stage. I mean, the AOP as well, I know that one of them is injured. The Viking Raiders as well, not seen them on TV either. Buddy Murphy. So there's a lot of superstars that haven't been around, and it'll be interesting to see how and when they'll be fitting back in when this COVID is finished. I think the big burning question here is that if someone has tested positive, what happens going forward? Because we say these superstars that are not going to do it, is it the right thing that they just shut down proceedings in the meantime? Personally, for me, I think it is. I think that right now, we can live without wrestling for a little bit. I really do. I know WWE wants to put on entertainment. They probably, they got so far into the WrestleMania season, didn't want to stop it there. Although I didn't agree with it, and I did a past video saying that they should have postponed WrestleMania. You know, they wanted to give us something. We were grateful for it. I think the show was good. But I mean, we don't want to see people, you know, get this COVID-19 as a result of everything going on, because, you know, it takes no prisoners. Let's not kid anyone here. Everyone across the world is in lockdown in some form or another. I'm in lockdown where, I mean, I'm not even really supposed to leave the house unless it's something urgent. Maybe it's food shopping or to go to the doctors or something like that. That's the only time I should be leaving where I am at the moment. I can't go to work. I can't do anything like that. So, you know, for everyone who's got these extreme measures, and WWE has got so much content on the WWE network that you can make something going forward for weekly TV. You can make these documentaries that they've got on. They've got some great documentaries right now. I mean, Edge, Tegan Knox were two that I watched this week. Fantastic. I mean, Alexa Bliss and lots of other superstars have got these great ones. The Broken Skull sessions, they can throw that stuff on. They can throw old pay-per-views on, stuff that they maybe want to build superstars up and say, look, this is the height of when it was really good with all the audience. So-and-so's best matches, they've done that over WrestleMania season for like Randy Orton. They could do that. You could even have where, if you can have like what they've done for backstage, you can have someone doing a Skype interview, or doing what I'm doing now, recording you a video, giving your thoughts on maybe certain matches, create a different twist and give it new content. Imagine Randy Orton sitting like I am right now, explaining about his match against Mick Foley at Backlash 2004, explaining his rivalry with Triple H, his rise through evolution, and getting to see odd matches here and there put in between. It could be creative, exclusive content, and even though you've seen the matches before, and some people, younger audiences may not have, you've got a different twist on it of where you might turn around and say, I want to see that. And I think that would be a creative way to go forward within this current pandemic that's going on. Don't risk the superstars. I mean, I don't know how people feel, and I'd love to know people's thoughts in the comment section of this video, and I am asking everybody that watches this to please let me know your thoughts. Are you enjoying Raw and SmackDown every week, NXT, with this empty arena style? I mean, I must admit, I enjoyed WrestleMania on the whole. I thought it was entertaining on the whole, and I have a WrestleMania review for anyone that wants to go and check it out on the channel. But I would turn around and say that I do find myself less interested on these Raw and SmackDowns, particularly, I mean, Raw this week. I mean, it had some returns and had, but I think we had a match with Apollo Crews and Aleister Black that went on, seemed to go on forever. And for me, I just wasn't entertained as well as I could have been. I think what come out of it, perhaps when you look at it on writing and say, well, this is what happened, it sounds better than what it portrayed on TV. And I personally, I wouldn't mind the break. But as an answer to your question, yeah, I expect more superstars to do it because this is a situation that, I mean, depending on where you are in the world, and I'm not so as up to date with what's going on in Florida specifically or in the United States. I'm more of what's going on where I am and across Europe at the moment because that's where I am based and where a lot of my newsfeed covers. Yeah, I mean, we're not in a situation where we're going to be having arenas full of people anytime soon. The numbers are still high where we are as well of fatalities each and every day. I think it's time to take a break, and I think certain superstars are fearful, and those have taken that break, and some of them for good reason. I think a lot of people are on side of the people that have decided to take the break. Next question comes from James Deal. How long before Ronda Rousey shows up on a WWE network show? Interesting question, especially at this very topical time that apparently Ronda Rousey has come out and has said a few things that's definitely ruffled some feathers amongst wrestling fans in the wrestling community, suggesting wrestling is fake and us fans are being ungrateful for when she was around. It's very interesting because the more and more that happens and the more reaction that happens, I'm going to start giving an opinion here that I'm sure some other people have thought as well, but maybe it's something to take in mind. I wonder if this is a bit of a work. Shayna Baszler's taken her side as well, obviously looking to get some of that heat herself, I'm guessing, going forward, and of course is Ronda Rousey's friend. I understand that you'd want to be with your family rather than on the road sometimes with the WWE and stuff, especially if you want to start a family, if you're in with this pandemic and don't want to make a return or whatever. But all this other stuff that I've been reading with people like Nia Jax making comments, Lana, you do start to wonder if there's a little bit to this because everyone seems very quick to react. Everyone's got something to say, and I don't know. A bit of me just wonders if it's a work because what better way for Ronda Rousey to come back to WWE if she was to than to come back as a heel, to come back as someone that's hated amongst fans? Because let's be fair, she did the squeaky clean baby face, but the problem is that perhaps she had some good matches, but she wasn't by far 100% there. She transitioned very well, but she could have done with more time before coming in properly. And, I mean, we knew that WWE was going to put the rocket on her, send her to the moon, and give her every win. I mean, I'd even read something somewhere, however true it was, that she didn't want to put people over. She wanted to remain undefeated because it would seem unrealistic that she would be defeated in the world of WWE with those women. And for me, yes, that broke at WrestleMania. She lost. She was the one that's pinned as well in the match with Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. But it just kind of leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and that's not the way to get over. And whether it's true or not, that she probably wasn't a fan, that people were sort of turning on her a little bit, that we were fickle fans. I think it's because we would have liked to have been the ones to have got behind Ronda Rousey rather than feeling, yeah, well, corporate's behind her and she's going to win every match, and almost gives that what the point. Fans like to rebel. They like to go against the system. That's what made wrestling so popular in the late 90s to begin with, that rebellion feel of the NWO, that feeling with Austin against McMahon, and everyone loves a rebel. A rebel is a babyface in these days, and Ronda Rousey wasn't doing that. Becky Lynch is sort of the modern version of that, and fans got behind it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get Ronda Rousey back one day as a monster heel. The timing of it is interesting because I do think SummerSlam would have been a good place for her to come back if they were going to do that. But I still wonder with this pandemic, you don't know how long it's going to be till it's finished. So, I mean, Ronda Rousey's definitely not returning to nobody. So, yeah, if she's going to come back and to try and make a big deal of it, then, yeah, I think we need to be with people. But is this a work? I think a little bit. I think that she could be back in WWE some point, some way down the line. I could see it happening. Get Show, a wrestling podcast, is here with your next question. Should cinematic matches only be saved for bigger pay-per-views? WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble? Or do you want to see them more often in pay-per-views? Well, I want to see them more often in some form because of the fact I think it's refreshing, especially for WWE to do it because, we've seen it done in some other forms. I was a big fan of Lucha Underground. I loved that they brought the cinematic experience to wrestling and I thought it was definitely something that people could look at going forward. Matt Hardy was fantastic with the deletion matches involved with Impact Wrestling. And he wasn't really given the license to do it the way he could have or should have done in WWE when he did the match with Bray Wyatt. But to see it more often now in WWE, now we've got it at WrestleMania and it was a success, and we've got it on NXT this week as well. I did find myself that when we got to NXT this week that I didn't need it so urgently. I think that they should be done, but I don't think they should be done all the time. And I think that is the issue. Particularly as well when we say big pay-per-views, it worked at WrestleMania this year because there was no audience. You could argue that while there was no audience in arenas, it's a great way to break things up. I think that you could be more creative and bring back some other matches that could also make this not even necessarily a cinematic experience, but certainly a different way of presenting your program. I mean, a parking lot brawl was suggested on AEW just before the empty arena shows happen. I'm surprised they didn't continue with it because maybe because you're not supposed to be on the streets, but maybe if you're based in some sort of place where you have that indoor car park, that would work quite well to do that kind of environment. A boiler room brawl, backstage brawls. I mean, you look with Edge and Randy Orton, they went all over the Performance Center. There are ways to do this stuff where you can break things up and make it creative. It doesn't always have to be cinematic. But do I want to see it more often? Yeah, I do, because I think it breaks things up. I think it would be interesting. My only question is when you look at events like WrestleMania, like I say, fans have to spend so much money to get to a WrestleMania that I think it would be unfair to put something on a screen for them. They're travelling from all different places, probably saving up the whole year to get there. On those events, I think it's kind of unfair. But other pay-per-views, maybe, it could work. Royal Rumble, you've already got that special gimmick match, so we don't really need it there. Survivor Series, Raw versus SmackDown, maybe not so urgent there either. And maybe outside of the big four, I would be more of a fan of it rather than those big four pay-per-views. But definitely while we've got this no audience thing, I think, fill your boots, maybe once or twice a month. As long as it's not done 3 times in a week, I think it's probably more acceptable. But I think it was well responded from everyone. Everyone seemed to enjoy everything. The Boneyard match, we got the Firefly FunHouse match, which I've reviewed both on my WrestleMania review, which I've already mentioned in the video. And also we had the match with Gargano and Ciampa this week, which, went a little long for my liking, to be honest, but I understand why they did it, and I thought it was a good storytelling to the match. And, it was a great way to end that feud. So, for cinematic wrestling, there's definitely ways to keep it going, but I think the most important thing right now is making use of the environment around you, and that way can keep programming kind of fresh if you're going to continue doing this format of TV going forward. While we've got these empty arenas. Next question coming from Carmine Rocco. If Undertaker remains as the American Badass, who do you think should be his next opponent and why? Interesting question indeed. Well, American Badass or the Undertaker normally as the dead man, I kind of want to see one opponent. I want to see Sting. I think, especially in that cinematic kind of way we were talking about in the last question, I really think that we could benefit seeing a cinematic version of Undertaker versus Sting. You can really be creative with this, and both, can have stunt doubles, and you've got ways to make that match really work because it's something that fans want to see. I don't know if it's what every fan wants to see, but there's definitely a portion of fans out there that wanted an Undertaker versus Sting match. This match protected the Undertaker so well, and I think him versus Sting would be a match for the ages. I still would prefer it in the dead man gimmick, if the two, but definitely if you put it in the right sort of environment. The Undertaker is the Undertaker, and if we got him versus Sting, I think it would be an epic encounter, particularly in that cinematic format. The story build itself leading up to a match could be fantastic as well, and there's ways and means of these two legends here doing this that, for me, just screams this works and should be something that should be looked in and should be done. So for me, that's how and who I would want to see the Undertaker take on next. Noob and Co. for our next selection of questions. Do you think Killer Kross' first feud will be Johnny wrestling in NXT? Of course, Johnny Gargano. What are your thoughts of the Boneyard and Firefly Funhouse matches? And which WWE superstars from Raw and SmackDown have been entertaining everyone in empty arena episodes? Some great questions there. We've sort of touched on a little bit in all through the video those topics there. So to answer these specific questions is great timing for these to come through. For Killer Kross, that was a great, interesting twist at the end of the NXT show because Killer Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux were actually in a car as Johnny Gargano and, of course, Candice LeRae was escaping that sort of area that they had their match with Tommaso Ciampa. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with this, actually. I mean, Johnny Gargano is a heel now, and Candice LeRae, for me, has just turned heel. Is Killer Kross really going to come in as a babyface? I don't know, that really doesn't fit for me, but I suppose it would be an interesting twist and a different way to go forward. But Killer Kross really works as a psychotic heel for me, so I would prefer Killer Kross to have waited to see Gargano and Scarlett leave, and then to go in and attack Tommaso Ciampa. I think that could be an interesting twist carrying on to that, because I want to see that sort of heel Killer Kross. I want to see the best come out of him. Now, do I think that he should have took on Gargano and Candice LeRae if they were both baby faces? Yes, I would, because I think there would be a great feud. You can add Scarlett involved in this, and it's a great way to bring both of them in. And yeah, I'd be very much in favour of it. And it was something actually I suggested on this Q&A actually a number of months ago that I thought that would be the best place for Killer Kross to debut. Go for the heart and soul of NXT. Well, now the Rebel Heart is kind of a rebel and is a heel. Tommaso Ciampa is the black heart, but is a face. Tommaso Ciampa feels like the right guy to go for here, and he was a guy that was going for the championship not so long ago. Gargano actually, yes, beat Ciampa here, but did actually lose the last takeover to Balor. So you do feel in the way we look at things that actually Ciampa could be the best way to go forward. I would prefer to see Killer Kross against Tommaso Ciampa. As for the Boneyard and Firefly Funhouse matches, I will give you a small kind of preview. I'll give a full preview on the WrestleMania review, so go and check that out. They're more in depth than probably what I'll give on here. But the Boneyard match was absolutely brilliant. Cinematic wrestling works. It's a great way to protect The Undertaker at this stage of his career. I know he won't be thankful for me saying that, but there was just clever twists and turns the whole way through. I loved that The Undertaker had that new music from Metallica. I love the way that AJ Styles turned up in the coffin when we thought it was going to be The Undertaker himself. The inclusion of other characters and the twists and turns all the way through it, the eerie music, the whole thing worked for me on the Boneyard level. It was a great match. It was a great watch. I was gripped from start to finish, from twists and turns. So you can't ask for more than that when you're looking for this cinematic experience. So for me, I was very much a fan of this. As for the Firefly Funhouse match, it wasn't so much a match, and I think if you could get over that, it took me a small time to really get into it because of the fact I was expecting a match, but the second I let the guard down and let go that this wasn't a match and that this was just pure bonkers as what it was, I really got into it really quickly, and I thought it was a stroke of genius. I wasn't such a fan of the beginning of seeing what looked like it was coming in the arena. I'd have preferred that we'd just seen Bray Wyatt go into the Firefly Funhouse and Cena immediately go in afterwards with them rambling rabbit and going from there onwards. Then it would have been absolute 10 out of 10 perfect. The fact that Cena was in the arena side first made it feel like it was very quick to get from the arena to the Firefly Funhouse, because that's supposed to be kind of like this secret location, or so you feel, but superstars seem to be able to get there very quickly. As for when we got in there, I mean, John Cena playing out throughout his whole career, and just comedic, and yeah, I mean, let's be real. Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, buried John Cena at WrestleMania. We've got a twist of seeing what John Cena's nightmare would have been going through WrestleMania, that debut. We saw the Saturday night main event kind of style. I loved the commentary with the Vince McMahon, the Devil Vince McMahon. I loved the Macho Mercy. Vince going, "This is good shit," was funny. Cena as NWO. Genius. I know I've not mentioned the Thugonomics Cena, but obviously the rapping and stuff. But the NWO for me was absolutely genius, and I don't think I've seen this many places, which is why I quite like sharing this. My philosophy of what I saw from it was the idea of John Cena as Hollywood Hogan, because it just feels like John Cena throughout his career was burying talent, and what was Hogan sort of doing in WCW NWO? It felt like he was keeping himself on top and burying the talent that should have been pushed. That ultimately led to where WCW kind of folded after a while, because once the NWO stopped working as a gimmick thing. They had all these talents that had been pushed under the card for so long that no one was really being pushed up and put over. During that time of NWO, it just seemed that they were invincible. And for a long time in WWE, John Cena felt invincible. Anyone that was being pushed up, they almost got buried by Cena. And I thought that was really a unique twist of that. And I just found everything from start to finish was creative. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. As for Raw and SmackDown every week, we'll come to your delight. Asuka is absolutely enthralling. She's so entertaining to watch in this environment. The commentary side of her has been really good. I think the wackier the character, the better. This is an environment where your character needs to stand out. Nikki Cross stands out on it as well. Sami Zayn has been kind of working well with his whiny character. But yeah, if you're a little bit mental, it kind of works in this environment. If you're a bit more of a plain, indie style wrestler, that's it doesn't connect as well. But the promo work has been pretty solid throughout a lot of places within WWE here at this point. So I don't want to take too much away from people on the whole, but I do say if you're a wacky character, you're definitely getting more over at this particular stage on these empty arena shows. KT8 with our next questions here for you. Has winning the main title saved Braun Strowman? And also, now that Drew is champ and Jinder has been champ, do you think Heath Slater is next up? Love those questions. Right, Braun Strowman. Yes, I think is the short answer for this. He is a guy that should have been in this position 2 years ago. There's no secret, there's no denying this with Braun Strowman. He is a guy that has been, pushed up the card, had these great moments with Roman Reigns, was so over around, I think, SummerSlam 2017, was given his match against Brock Lesnar, and was fed to Brock Lesnar to put Lesnar more over at that point, which was supposed to, I think, then put Roman Reigns over down the line. That was a big mistake at that point, and we got to around 2018, and Strowman, that WrestleMania should have been his time to be in that main event picture. He then went to team with Nicholas. He went to win the Greatest Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank. We go on, but that moment just never come around to him, and then it sort of just evaporated for him. So to now have this moment where he's been pushed in this position, main through the fact that WWE kind of feels that he's the most creditable person to put the belt on right now, yeah, it saved him. The question is going to be if he's going to be a champion for a short term or a long term. A part of me feels that this may not be the longest reign in the world because he's now started feuding with the Fiend. But we'll have to wait and see. I do hope for Braun that this can work out because, yeah, he's been someone that's, I feel, always been in the shadow. He's always been on the same show usually as Roman Reigns, and that puts him in the shadow. He's never going to be the top guy at that point. So, yeah, this is now a chance for him to break out and really make himself that main eventer he should be. So, yeah, the ball's in his court at this point. He's now got the belt. See what you can do. As for Heath Slater, I'd love to see. He's got kids. He should be, more than what he's done. He's been with the company a long time. Sadly, the guy is viewed as catering. He's never going to be more than 24/7 at this point, it feels. But, the guy has done some good things throughout his career. Maybe he needs to leave and have a break and come back, but I felt his time to really be pushed was in 2016 with the kids gimmick. He went and stood up to Brock Lesnar. People were getting behind him. They were so happy when he became a tag team champion with Rhino, I believe, at the time. It would be great to see for him, but unfortunately he needs another one of those moments where that storyline can go for him. He's great on his character work. It's just not believable when it comes in the ring that he'll be a world champion. But would I like to see him get a push? Yeah, give it. He's been there for a long time. He deserves a go, doesn't he? I don't see him at world champion status. I never saw Jinder Mahal as world champion status. But if he can do something to just make himself stand out again, yeah, give him a bit of a push. Why not? Beardy at WWE with our next set of questions. Will Sasha and Bayley feud before next year's Mania? And is Banks certain for SmackDown champion? Will Nia Jax be used as a legit opponent for Becky and Baszler after she's the almost certain rematch? Easy for me to say. And could they find a finish to keep Braun and Bray both strong after the feud? Well, it's some interesting questions there. I do think that it'd be really a struggle to hold off Sasha and Bayley for another calendar year. This rivalry is a slow burner. And you could argue that this has been a slow burner for years already. But I think SummerSlam is the destination for this with these two. I do see it before Mania next year. And I do see Sasha Banks being the one to take the belt off of Bayley. It feels that that's the way. I'm really disappointed Tamina is the one that's now looking like they're going to build her for the program next against Bayley. What's the point? No one wants to see it. No one believes in it. Tamina is good for a cup of coffee, and then she goes off back to the bottom of the card. It's not believable. I'd rather Dana Brooke be in this position than actually seeing Tamina at this stage of the game. But that's not your question. It's just me going off on a little rant here. But no, I do think so. And I think SummerSlam would probably be the perfect place to do it because their epic matchup at the TakeOver Brooklyn was the night before SummerSlam back in 2015. So I think SummerSlam would be the place to make this happen right now, particularly as well with the pandemic. I think that the face turn would go down well in front of an arena and also would go down with the title change in front of fans. With Nia Jax, yes, I said this on my Raw After Mania video. I think that the Raw Women's division was in much needed strengthening, and with Nia Jax and Bianca Belair both being given themselves to have their future on Raw, it looks like that the Raw Women's division is going to be strong going forward. I mean, we mentioned that Sarah Logan and Ruby Riott have not been around for a while either, but we've got about 6 or 7 women now that are on the Raw Women's side, and yeah, I mean, what's also great about this is that Charlotte Flair, when she drops the NXT Women's Championship, she can come back to Raw as well and get in the mix there. She's got 2 competitors there with Nia Jax and with Shayna Baszler that she's not had full programs with. So yeah, I mean, Nia Jax is back for that reason, and will she be the champion? Probably not, but is she going to be a contender? She's definitely going to be in conversation. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens there, and Bianca Belair as well, she'll probably raise her profile also. So the Raw Women's division needed freshening up, and it's certainly got that after this week, and yeah, they'll all be mixing up at some stage without question. The way to keep them two strong, Braun and Bray Wyatt, let's go on to that question before we go on to our next set of questions. It's going to be interesting here because the Fiend can't lose. He's been built so strong that he can't lose. You've almost got to do a way to drag this rivalry out past Money in the Bank, in my opinion. A false finish in some format. Something that's going to make a mega spot where I don't know how you can do it in a performance center, but in the old style arenas back in 2007, 12, whatever, you had those full-on rampways, and you could have this big spot where you fall off the rampway through tables or through something crazy where you can make this big spot, and it's believable that the match would finish. Something that would make these two not get up by a count of 10 or something, just to keep them both strong. You could argue it could make both look weak, but I think something really off-the-wall crazy where you think they're not going to go up after 10, I think would then say they've cancelled each other out. A double count out is a way to do it as well. A double DQ is another way to do it. You need to do something on that first show to extend this further. That way we can make it work. We can then get some sort of wacky match where this can end on a good note. Braun Strowman comes out weak if he doesn't hold the belt longer than a few weeks. The Fiend comes off weak if he loses at this point, especially after what happened with Goldberg. So Fiend is the one that needs to be protected most here. So the Fiend is the one that needs to come out with a saving grace. Fiend needs to win the championship again. I personally wouldn't have done this program just yet. I would have had this going into SummerSlam, have a chance to give Braun Strowman the chance to be a champion for a little while, especially if we're not going to get back to arenas. Roman Reigns not going to be back. This is the biggest match you've got. So I would have done Bray and Jeff Hardy at this point. I would have probably done Braun and, I know, perhaps Sheamus or someone like that. I think would have been a good way to have gone. But maybe they're less interesting matches. I do like the way this program started off. And I think it's going down the right direction. But like you say, keeping them both protected is going to be the interesting question here. I'd like to know how you would do it in the comments below. The Tragedy of Cinema podcast with a series of questions here to finish off this week. We're going to start off with the first 2, and then we'll go as we go along. What old wrestler, dead or alive, do you think would fit in today's style of wrestling? I'm taking Macho Man. Well, it's a good choice you've got there. I think I would probably go with a similar shout there. And should more stables be added to WWE to get their 300 plus talents TV time, even if some only on NXT to give them more exposure? 2 very interesting questions. Your first one there, dead or alive. Well, I'm going to give you a couple of options for alive and a couple that are no longer with us. The ones that are alive, I mean, Bret the Hitman Hart, I think would be very good with this style of wrestling. I'd love to see him against AJ Styles. I think that would be an amazing match. And Daniel Bryan as well. Kurt Angle would be another of the two that are alive. I mean, Kurt Angle in his prime against Daniel Bryan would be incredible to watch, and Seth Rollins, and the list is endless really of great matches those guys could have. For the ones that are sadly no longer with us, Eddie Guerrero would be a great shout, and Chris Benoit, as controversial as it is, I mean, those two would be phenomenal with the talent we've got today. So that would be my picks. As for more stables, yeah, I'm a fan of stables. I think that, like you say, it's a great way of making exposure, getting people more elevated up the card. You look at Seth Rollins, we had Murphy and AOP. Instant, they're in the main event scene. They're in more important storylines, and the stuff they do comes with more meaning. So yeah, I mean, stables are a good way to go. Do I want to see it like a New Japan route where everyone is in a stable, or what AEW seems to be starting to do, where everyone is part of some form of stable? Maybe not. You can do it overkill, but perhaps a Raw could be a full of stables. We've got a couple already. SmackDown less stables, and NXT has like Undisputed Era. I'd be fine with that. I'd be happy if one show had full of stables, because then that way that show becomes different and it stands out from all the rest. So stables are a good way to get people over. Yeah, more TV exposure. But yeah, I think it's all the way that it's done. It can be overkill as well. Our next question then from Tragedies of Cinema podcast. Should Cena or Undertaker revive NWO or Ministry of Darkness so the ratings would come back and bring some more fans back, as well as help get new talent over? Well, it's a great way to get new talent over. Certainly it's a way of using your legends to put people over. But those two particular talents in particular, I don't see are able to do those full-time schedules in that way anymore. So you would have to look to within your roster of people that you can do, or a legend that you can bring back to lead someone. I mean, the great way to look at this is AEW. They've got a great way of using their legends to put people over. You've only got to look at Sean Spears is automatically more creditable because he's got Tully Blanchard. And I don't see Sean Spears that creditable, to be fair. But he certainly has more credit with Blanchard in his corner. Jake Roberts is definitely a better example to give for you. Him and Lance Archer. I mean, every time Jake Roberts is on your screen giving a promo, and then you've got the Murder Hawk coming out there each and every week, it's just absolute genius the way that it could be a match made in heaven. Arn Anderson, the coach for for Cody, is good. It's just elevating his face run even more as a top babyface. And Chris Jericho with the Inner Circle. Those guys, would they be getting as over? Particularly Sammy. Sammy Guevara is a revelation in the Inner Circle, and Jake Hager as well, both benefiting from this Inner Circle stable. So there are ways and means of doing it, and it's using your talent wisely to make this happen and make it right. Would the Ministry get more eyes on the prize? Yeah, probably bring some old school fans back. Would the NWO do it? Yes, in a way, but it's also nice to see something creative, something new, something fresh. If something people can get behind, that's something from today, then I think more people will be involved in it rather than nostalgia pop. Nostalgia works for the short term. Nostalgia doesn't work for the long term. And 3 more questions then to finish us off this week. Will Vince McMahon get more involved on Raw and SmackDown now the XFL is over? Will Matt Hardy have a championship run in AEW? Will WWE counter with a Jeff Hardy title run if he does? And last but not least, should Jericho become an announcer once he hangs up his boots? Well, let's start off with Jericho there, because that's probably the shortest one I can give you an answer to. Yes, I think he will. I think he's getting his feet under the table. I think he's warming up for it now. Obviously, he does his podcast every week, which is a great benefit to AEW. He was on the commentary booth this week, and it's not the first time he's flirted with it in AEW as well. I could see it as something he could do. If he remains in AEW, I think he wants that brand to be fully established as a real number 2 in the wrestling industry. And until that happens, I don't see Jericho leaving. Do I think he'll be back involved with WWE one day? Possibly. I'd like to see him in the Hall of Fame one day. I think it was something he will keep on good terms where and when he needs to. But for this particular moment, yeah, I could see him being an announcer in AEW, particularly because, how long will JR, Tony Schiavone be there? I mean, they're there for now and they do a good job. But in the long term, we probably will need more announcers in AEW. And we've got Taz, we've got Excalibur, but Jericho, I think, would be good at the table. I think he's definitely, I wouldn't say he'd be perfect at this stage, but definitely with some practice, I think Jericho would be amazing at doing that role. As for Vince McMahon being involved more with Raw and SmackDown now the XFL is finished, yeah, I would expect so. Vince, lives, he breathes wrestling. So, Vince McMahon is always going to have some form of hand within WWE. He probably still was, even with the XFL going on. But he probably will be very Vince heavy once again now that, the XFL currently for now, no foreseeable future for it. So yeah, I think Vince will. As for Matt Hardy, I've touched on this on a previous video. I don't expect him to have a championship run as AEW champion, but as the TNT championship now that's come involved, yeah, possibly that could work. I think Matt Hardy should look to elevate more talents. We mentioned that before in earlier questions. He's a legend now, and would be great to make new stars, and I think Matt Hardy would be good at doing that. Jeff Hardy, on the other hand, I can see him being pushed now in WWE once again. I can see that 2007 push going to start with him. And it'd be interesting to see what they do with it, because I think there's some great feuds there for Jeff Hardy. I think a Roman Reigns feud would be good for him. I think the Fiend, as I said before, I would love to see that feud take place. And Braun Strowman as well. So they've got lots they can do with Jeff Hardy. So I could see that one happening. But that's all this week for Ask SCW here on SCW, the wrestling channel. Hope you enjoyed the video as always. Remember, you can get your questions in for the next episode now. Leave the hashtag AskSCW, and like I say, you can get involved on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, even on this channel here. Subscribe if you haven't already. Please like and share the video. Word of mouth goes a long way on helping the channel grow, and I really appreciate everyone that does support and help out with the channel. But that's all from me anyway. You can check out as well all the retro stuff involved right now. We've got a Nitro retro episode for Throwback Thursday this week. We'll be coming back next week as well. There's quite a few videos that have been uploaded in the last week, so make sure to go and check those out. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. This has been SCW, the wrestling channel, here on YouTube.com. Take care.